films are. How do short films work? What are shorts? How they operate? Sometimes shorts are not really short. They end up being like these 40-minute plural of opus. Opi? Opuses? Opus? No. Anyway, they end up being these like tremendous beasts. I think especially when you're working on your thesis film, whether you're a grad student or a senior, this is kind of a proclivity to try to throw everything but the kitchen sink into your final film. And say, well, look, this is my senior film. It's going to have everything in it. So I don't know. Sometimes we got to back away and kind of take a look at it from another perspective. And I thought today might help us do that. I want to introduce some guests we have with us today. Kayla York. Hi. And Alicia Lipinski. You guys are both with Headstrong Entertainment? Headlong, that's what I meant. Give me a second. And they're are the judges this year for the short film competition. Anna Harari over here made a really cool film called In Between. I hear it's really cool. I haven't seen it yet. But I'm going to screen today. Today, what time?
11:30.
11:30 before
the kid.
For the kid. So, right on. So I want to thank you guys for coming in. Do we have any other short filmmakers here that are visiting that I'm overlooking? Okay.
Wasn't necessarily like nothing I made in school was necessarily reel worthy. 2 was for everyone else's reel, like everyone else involved, like the costume designer, the lead actor, the production designer, the DP. Like everyone was like emerging industry professionals, and everyone wanted like a really good piece of work for their reel, so everyone was really involved. And 3 was for the story. Like I wanted to test out the story to see if it was a story that I wanted to spend a year writing the script on, and then spend another year raising money for, and then another year shooting it, things like that. So it was like kind of a tester to develop the story and see if I could gain interest. And then eventually it would be like a pitch package to, you know, try to sell it like with the script and the short as like a teaser for the film. And yeah, and also just when I got out of school, I found myself surrounded by a lot of really talented people in LA, and you know, I just wanted to do a project with them. So a short seemed like the easiest thing to do.
Do you have an idea for a feature that has a similar premise with similar characters?
Yes.
How did you avoid the trappings of making that short film that feels like it's masquerading as a feature film? I know that sometimes students have an idea for this really killer feature, and they're like, well, I'll just make the first scene, it'll be my short film. And most of the times, that doesn't really work. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah, actually, our first jobs was at a literary agency called Genesis, and we were fortunate enough to start there when Saw was being shopped around, and my boss in particular was the one who found the script for Saw. And Saw was an interesting case because it was written it was written by James Wan and Lee Wanell, and both kids wanted to be in the movie. James wanted to direct it, and Lee wanted to act in it. And they were kind of like, we're not going to sell this script unless, you know, we can be a part of it outside of being just the writers of it. And, you know, they had just graduated from film school themselves. They were Australian. They didn't have any connections in LA whatsoever. And so, you know, nobody was taking them seriously as a director and as an actor. And so what we did is once we read the script and saw this is going to revolutionize, you know, horror films because they're cyclical and they kind of come around, and it was something that we kind of hadn't seen for a while, and everybody who read it kind of knew that this is going to be another one of those franchises, kind of like Halloween and Friday the 13th. So we picked out a strategy for it, which was to send the guys off and have them make a short based on the script, and showcase James as a director and Lee as an actor, and that's what they did. And it was the most successful short that I can think of in recent history, and it was never seen outside of industry professionals who were actually looking at the script in order to buy it.
Wow.
And it was probably the most terrifying 7-minute short I've ever seen, and still I've never seen anything quite so terrifying as that. But it encapsulated what the script was and what the film would be. And it absolutely sold James as a director and Lee as an actor, and I guess the rest is history. But it's absolutely, and I think Anna, you know, mentioned, it's a great way to start your career. You need it for your reel, you need to prove that you're a director in your own capacity. And
now you're saying that there's the 7-minute kind of teaser short for Saw, just to prove that these guys could actually direct, they could handle making a film.
Yeah.
So that kind of you said circulated around the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't play film festivals.
Nope.
I think students are listening to this thinking, well, maybe that's the route for me.
Well, it's not the route for every short. You know, every short isn't meant to be a feature. This one started out as a feature script, and it was, you know, we used the short in order to sell the feature script and sell the director and the actor.
I guess what I'm fishing for is that there was already interest in the feature well before the short was even made.
Only within our agency. Only within our agency, because it was very much like the kids wanted to be involved in the feature outside of just being the writers. And you know, they weren't going to let it go out unless they could be attached. So nobody outside of the agency saw this until that short was made, and then we sent out the short along with the script.
You know, you said it was 7 minutes long. How come they just didn't do a big chunk and chop it around?
Well, 7 minutes really, the 7 minutes that they pulled from the script encapsulated the entire story. And it was another funding thing. I mean, they didn't have enough money to go out and shoot the entire thing themselves. So it was just enough to entice people to what they could do as a director and an actor, and of course as writers. And that's all we needed.
Do you think audiences are more inclined to look at something that's, say, 5 to 7 minutes long than they are 20 to 30?
Absolutely.
Is there like in your experience, is there some kind of, I'm not asking for a specific number, but is this a point where you just kind of go, okay, that's it, this film is proverbially jumped the shark, we're done, this film needed to end a long time ago?
I think, you know, a lot of times people throw a lot of stuff into a film just to show that they can get it in and to show off their directing and to show off the shots, and they lose track of the story. And I think the most important thing is to look at how concisely you can tell a story. You know, in festivals, a lot of them, we've been told, look for things that are 10 minutes or less because they're easier to program, they're easier to put several together that way, and that you actually have a better chance of getting it in there. But, you know, I think for me, one of the most effective shorts, I was thinking about this morning, that I've ever seen was probably about 8 years ago, and it was out of USC, and it ended up winning all these awards, these student film awards. And it was maybe 5 minutes. It didn't have a line of dialogue in it. And it was just the most touching story, and had this beginning, middle, end, and this arc. It was about a woman, and she was in a train station. And she was all dressed up, and you could tell she was from this kind of upper class, and she had all her shopping bags. And she went into this restaurant because she missed her train, and she had to kill a little bit of time, and she was hungry, and she orders a salad, and she sits down at the table and sets down her salad and her bags. And she goes off to get a napkin, and she comes back, and there's this homeless man sitting there eating her salad. And she sits down across from him, and she's just, you can tell, she's just, how can this man do this? Like, you know, but she doesn't say anything to him, and he's eating, and so she finally picks up a fork, and she stabs a piece of lettuce, and she eats it, and this goes back and forth, and they, you know, he kind of pushes it over and starts sharing with her, and they end up sharing this salad, and at the end, she gets up and she walks out, and she realizes, oh my God, I forgot my bags. And she walks back in and discovers that her bags were in a different booth with her whole uneaten salad. And you see that she has this like realization that this man who had nothing just shared his meal with her, and she was the one that was judging. And it was just so beautifully done. And the thing is, I don't remember exactly who directed it. I can't even
Adam
tell
Davidson.
you.
It's called The Lunch Day.
Yeah. I
Have you ever worked
can't.
with him?
No,
Oh, I know he's directed Law and Order. I don't know if you did.
not mine.
All right.
But that story sticks with me, and those images. Like, I don't need to remember every single flashy shot or all these
So
things.
you're left with a story that really resonates.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the story dictates the length of the film.
Yeah.
You know, the shorter the story, sometimes the more clever you have to be. I do think that shorter shorts, especially for students, are a better idea. But I think the filmmaker just has to, in the end, I think it's the filmmaker that has to decide how long this film is going to be. And that festivals, I mean, I've found, the first film that I made was a short, but it was 30 minutes long. Wow. You know? But it was it was all dialogue. And it all took place in one room, and it was all dialogue. The festival circuit loved it, and nobody ever mentioned how long it was to me. But I know that I was in this short that won the Academy Award last year, The New Tenants?
Yeah.
And that was 18 minutes long. So I think it's up to the filmmaker in the end. I think that it's a good thing, though, what this woman was saying about the suggestion of making a shorter film is better, because it's all about story. It should be story, like she said, and then the visuals, you know, they come second. You know, you have to show that you're a storyteller as well as a camera mover, you know, as well as a shooter. Otherwise, you should just be a DP.
Thanks, that's what I was fishing for.
Yeah.
Right there, that was good.
And it's something that we keep coming back to, having judged the student competition here this year, is, you know, does it have a story? And that's been, it's a topic in every single one of our conversations when we're talking about the certain block that we're judging, is does it have a story? Did it move us? Did we remember what it was trying to
Is there a
tell us?
beginning, a middle, and an end?
Exactly.
And you know,
And in length, you know, a 30-minute short is just as good as a 5-minute short.
Yeah.
If it engages you, if you're watching it and completely compelled by these characters and the story.
I think there's a certain degree of economy that has to happen in a short film. You do have to economize because you're working with a shorter format. I think, you know, to make a 30-minute short, there are some that are really brilliant. Like, I look at The Accountant, for example, which won the Oscar about 10 years ago. And that was Ray McKinnon's short. Thank you. It was a brilliant example, but again, there was it was fit for what it was, and there are very few exceptions, I think, to making films at that length that really resonated and worked. So, you know, I like what you said, that if you're working shorter, it gives an opportunity for a student, one, not to show their mistakes as much, two, that they can economize, and three, that they can, you know, very efficiently create almost like a poetic work. It's like when you're starting out writing, you know, sometimes you just put pen to paper and write the novel, or start with a word processor, or whatever the euphemism, the analogy is today. Or sometimes you start writing haikus. So haikus can be respected and beautiful and
Really boring.
Really boring, too.
And I think it's important that every shot and that every scene in any film, but especially in a short, serve a purpose, that it serve the larger story, that it serve the characters and the journey that they're on. Otherwise, there's no point in having it there.